Welcome to another episode of Live Life by Design. Today I have a very, extremely awesome guest, Mr. Kenny Cox himself. Much love, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, brother.
We've been friends for a very long time. I think we first met in the fall of 2007 in preparation for summer of '08, which was my first year at Apex. Mm-hmm. Now Vivint, and you're still there. How many years have you been at Vivint? Is it 19?
I'm in my 19th year.
19th year. Crazy.
So crazy.
So let's not go there quite yet. Just tell me what's going on in the life of Kenny Cox. What makes you tick? What gets you up in the morning?
So yeah, I'm in my 40s, and I'm actually blessed to still work in an industry where everybody takes care of themselves. Yeah, I mean, really at this age, it's like looking after my health, making sure that I have vitality in my later years, making decisions on the daily, with not just health stuff, but like finance stuff. And now it's starting to get real because I've got these adult kids at home. I've got, my other kids are teenagers, and we're just starting to have these experiences that, you hear about, but I don't know how you are prepared for this. It doesn't come with a manual, right? Yeah. And so you and I talk about that
quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I kind of have, I'm a little bit accelerated there. I mean, 24 is my oldest. Your oldest is 21.
21.
Yeah, so we're there. I just had a couple year jump on it, and I'm like, Kenny, what's coming is crazy. Like, just you wait. And we were actually talking to Nick Hansen earlier. I don't know if you were in that combo, but I said, Nick, his oldest was 16. I'm like, I laugh when I hear these parents say, oh, I'm so glad my kids are now out of diapers, or I'm so glad my kids are now finally out of elementary school, and I don't have to, like, take them to school and be in all these different things. Like, just you wait. Man, just you wait.
Life was so simple, and you feel like, well, I'd go back there in a second, but then you wouldn't trade. It's just complicated.
It's just part of it.
This whole parenting
awesome
thing is complicated, and you have your professional life. You've got to look after yourself physically. You've got to watch what you eat. You got to pay attention to what's going on in the news and the media, and you've got to make big business decisions. Like, it's a lot of hats.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is true. Like, wouldn't have it any other way. Learning at like breakneck speed, trying to stay ahead, trying to stay relevant, and trying to be a good person.
Love it.
It's a lot.
So you started talking about your health, your vitality. If you don't mind, how old are you now?
44.
44. Mm-hmm. So what are some best practices? What are some things that you're doing to make sure that you're dialed in on that front?
Yeah. So doing something hard in the morning, and cold plunge, and I know it's super trendy and all that, but I'm actually a plunger, and I know there's health benefits and all that, but it's really, for me, it's just doing a thing that I hate right off the bat, like getting out of my nice warm bed and getting in the freezing cold water. I actually love that. I feel like I get the hardest thing out of the way very first thing in the morning. Hitting a workout, and then honestly, just for me, this is going to sound crazy, but like counting calories. So I've lost about 20 pounds, and I've put on some weight, some like lean muscle mass. Yeah, I think the last time I went in for a DEXA scan, I was at 16% body fat, and I need to improve on that. But the difference that I feel mentally and physically, just paying attention to those couple of things, nothing crazy, but it's made a huge difference to me. And it just helps me like feel more confident. So I don't know, there's lots of stuff you could do, but for me, it's just calories in, calories out, make sure I'm taking care of myself in the morning. And I really think, and I believe that the mind is a garden, right? If you leave it unattended, weeds will grow, right? I didn't coin that. I heard that somewhere.
Sure.
But I'm always trying to, like, even on the way down here, I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always trying to read good books. I try and read my scriptures every night, because if I don't, I find myself endlessly scrolling online, and a lot of that stuff is just trash.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to keep the weeds out on top of just doing the physical stuff. But I think it all goes together.
Yeah, love it. And then, okay, so 19, that was awesome. Tons of nuggets there. So I'll share, I'm not a cold plunger, but no. I am putting one in, guess where I'm putting mine? In my master, I guess you can't call them masters anymore, in my primary suite. But why do you think I'm doing that? Right there.
Well, I think you're eliminating friction points
Mm-hmm.
to getting into it, because mine is outside, and that's part of it. Opening the door, going out in the cold, and then getting in. I freaking hate it. So
Yeah.
it makes all the sense to me in the world.
I talk about this all the time, but I try to make the things that I should do easy
Yes.
and the things that I should not do difficult. There's a lot of friction points, like you said.
Love that.
So I'm like, I don't think I've never cold plunged. I've done the cryotherapy chamber thing, but I've never cold plunged. My wife has. But I'm like, I want to get into this, so I know myself well enough where I need to make it really easy for me to do on a daily. So I have a hot tub on this side,
Yeah.
cold plunge on this side, sauna across
Beautiful.
the way.
That's the one I need. We both are friends with Casey, but I went to his house and did a plunge, hot tub, sauna session. I've never done that before.
Awesome.
I felt incredible for probably 48 hours.
Wow.
It was amazing. So I'm
cool.
excited. We're gonna have to. You have to let me know. I'll come and
That's
test
in my
that
primary
stuff out with
suite,
you.
by the way. That's going to be awesome.
That's gonna be so awesome.
Okay, so 19-year tenure at Vivint.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, so I have a short checklist of things, and I've shared this before in other places, but I think if you like the people that you work with, if you can mostly agree with the direction of the company, because I don't know that you'll ever love everything that
Sure.
a business or a company is doing that you're with, and if you're kind of believe in your product and offering, that's all part of the same thing, but then be fairly compensated. I think maybe if there's a fifth part to that, is just don't screw it up, right? I've watched so many people, especially in the door-to-door industry, like jump from spot to spot to spot, and sometimes it works out for a lot of those guys. They end up in a position that's really, really amazing. But more of what I have seen is that a lot of guys just end up washing out of the industry. Now, that's not why I've stayed for 19 years. I've stayed for 19 years because it checks those boxes that I just named. And prior to me coming here, I had experiences with bad people selling products that I didn't believe in, where I wasn't paid fairly. And so when I found a spot that treated me good and checked the boxes, I just have decided to stay. And what's been great about working here is that we've innovated over the years. Like, I'll never forget, Mitt Romney came in. You may have been there. Ribbon cutting ceremony at the new headquarters.
Yeah, I was there.
Excellent. And he said, if this company is doing the same thing 5 years from now it's doing today, you'll be out of business. And I remember immediately after that, like Todd and Sean and Keith and others, they met in a room and they really started talking a lot and focusing on innovation. And I'll never forget driving home from the end of a summer feeling like that the product was worn out. I was tired of selling the same stuff as everybody else. And the very next year was when we released like a new control panel with new equipment and new software. And it was really clunky and crappy. And we were like blowing up people's HVAC systems, and they were without air conditioning, and there was some pain in that. But I loved that we were at least trying. And really, since then, we've continued to innovate. We've continued to release new products and services. And so I've been able to continue to believe in what we've been doing. And again, if it continues to check the boxes as far as, hey, I believe in the product, I like the people, I'm fairly compensated. And so it's like, why would I not double and triple down on that?
No, that's very well said. How many people have you seen come and go
Oh,
over these 19 years?
thousands. Yeah, even today, right? Walking into your office, I'm like, hey, like high school reunion.
Yeah.
It really is that way. And it's wild. If I go anywhere in public, anywhere, whether it's a basketball game or if I go to like Harmon's grocery store or I'm just stopping in at Aubergine's for something to eat, I always bump into someone that we've worked with in the past. Somebody that's been at Vivint, or has either been employed there or been a spouse there, but it's a constant thing. And it's quite beautiful, like the community and the amount of people. And one of the things I like most about it is that really for the most part, like we part on good terms. Everybody that comes and goes, like we have really, really awesome like feelings toward each other and really fond memories. And we've built something pretty special. And I think that's what keeps us close,
That's awesome. What is it what do you like most about the job? Obviously the money, check the box. And there was a Harvard study done a few years back that says a lot of people think it's about the money, and it is initially, like that's a hygiene effect. But once that's checked, there's a lot of other things that matter most. And once people have been tenured into a company, money actually becomes last. It becomes number 10. But what, not just Vivint, but just this industry in general, like what do you like the most about it?
So relationships for sure. My most cherished memories are with people that I either work with currently or that I've worked with in the past. If you go through like the pictures in my phone, outside of all my family stuff, the ones that I've put in my favorites, they're all like vacations that I've been on. They're golf trips that I've been on. They're hunting trips that I've been on. And all of them are people that I've either rubbed shoulders with or that I work with directly or that I have worked with in the past. And now we're like doing deals together. We're investing money together. So I would say number one, relationships, and number two is easily the mentorship part of it. Staying here gives me a platform to influence the next generation of leaders. And a lot of my time right now is being spent in developing a program to just help mentor, train, and develop up and coming leaders on not only how to lead, but how to scale and how to grow. Because you have these individual contributors that are great and we need them. But what we really need is really like good individual contributors that can learn leadership development skills and that can learn how to scale a sales force, how to recruit, train, develop, mentor, and retain really good people. Because everybody says they want to do that. And you can learn a lot from reading books, but I'm working on creating a program that I can bring guys in, it's by invitation only, and train them exactly on how to do it. Beautiful. So that stuff fires me up, kind of the leave a legacy type attitude.
And then to be fair, the next question is, what do you like the least about what you do?
What do I like the least about what I do? Probably the politics. I think any company, if you're there long enough, there's a certain level of politics that are involved. And probably just that, without getting too specific on it. Just politics. That's probably it.
Yeah. And then, politics for me, when I hear somebody say, I don't want to get involved in the politics, I cringe. I'm like,
yeah.
That's kind of saying you don't want to exist.
Yeah, it's like sticking your head in the sand.
Yeah, listen to me. Like politics is just the art of the possible.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
There's politics in family. There's politics at church. There's politics at the workplace. Mm-hmm. There's politics in your social constructs, in your friend group, everything. You just have to learn how to ebb and flow, and you need to learn how to have empathy. Empathy is just understanding the other side's point of view. I think when we go into a company or an organization and we try to impose ourselves on others without understanding what they're feeling, what they're believing, what they want out of the deal, et cetera, that's when we get in trouble. So I think don't say, I don't want to be involved with the politics. Just understand that it's par for the course.
Yeah.
And listen a little bit more than you talk, and try to build bridges instead of walls. That would be my advice for anybody dealing with that sentiment of politics.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Because for a long time, I was one of those that was like, oh, I'm just going to not get involved in the politics.
You have to get involved.
Well, if you don't, other people are going to make decisions on your behalf. And so it's better, like you're saying, be in the weeds so that you can. Even if it's like a play, you're not playing both sides, but you're playing your side and making sure that your interests are known.
Yeah, you have to be an advocate for your fiduciary. I mean, you have people that are counting on you to make sure that their best interest are top of mind.
Exactly.
No, I love that. So now let's pivot a little bit from work. And I mentioned this on a previous show, but quite often we talk a lot about work and our numbers and our EBITDA and our cash flow and all these things. That's how we're built. That's how we're driven. And it's it is what it is.
It is kind of fun too.
It is fun, and it's a good
as long as the
scorecard.
numbers are good. Yeah.
Yeah, true that. And I think we'll pivot back again into the direct to home stuff, but let's switch it up a little bit. So I'll just ask you, introduce yourself to all of us without telling us your job title.
Okay.
or your previous accolades. Like, who is Kenny Cox?
Okay. So yeah, Kenny Cox. I want to say I'm 5th generation Sanpete County. My 5 generations ago.
So for folks to understand,
yeah,
because we have a lot of listeners from New York and other places around the globe.
Welcome.
Please tell us what Sanpete County is.
Sanpete County is a turkey farming community in the middle of the state of Utah. So from this office, it's about 2.5 hours. Population was 2,000 people when I was growing up. It's like 2,300 people now. My brother just moved there, and my mom still lives there.
Is he loving it?
He loves it.
Really?
He loves it so much.
And Janae loves it too?
She says she loves it so much.
Clean Monday Meals out of Sanpete County,
yes,
Utah.
look them up. They've got some really, really good stuff. But so I think that she does. I think she loves it because Kevin loves it, and I think that she just loves it. And I love the fact that they're still down there. So growing up there, I felt like I had the best upbringing ever.
So let me ask, did you know all 2,000 people?
I don't know if I knew all 2,000 people. Had 131 kids in my graduating class.
You had more, so my graduating class, 94.
Wow. So
in Puerto Rico.
You probably knew, like I knew all first names, last names, and where they all lived.
For my high school graduating class, 1,000%. Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. See, we're the same cloth. That's why we get along.
But I also grew up on an island of 4 million people.
Yeah, so. A little different. Yeah, a little different. But yeah, mom and a dad, grew up in a really like loving, caring home. One of 5 siblings. I'm the middle child. Loved sports all growing up. My dad owned a road construction business. And had some good success. He actually sold the company, made some money. But he only ever gave me 2 pieces of advice, and one was pay your taxes, and the other one was work hard. And I used to maybe discredit that a little bit. I'm like, oh, I wish he'd give me more like better advice. But honestly, it's just some of the best advice that I've received, and it's not even just because he gave it; it's because he lived it. He's gone now. He passed away a few years ago, but he was the ultimate example of just hard work and like caring for your family and loving the people around you. Of course, he's survived by my mother that still lives down there now. And so my siblings are all really still here. 4 of them are here. 3 of them are here in Utah and one's in Rock Springs. And now I raised my family in Heber City. I've been in direct sales, married my high school sweetheart. I should say that. I served a 2-year mission for my church in New Zealand. And that was really kind of like the grassroots of like sales, right? I was out knocking doors and persuading people and talking to people, learning how to communicate at the age of 19. And I've really never left. So ever since that time, I've been recruiting, training, developing salespeople, selling different products, really from the age of 19 till now the age of 44. Yeah. And 19 of those years have been at Vivint specifically, a company you and I helped build together.
Yeah, and then before you sold vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, I did. I had a 4-year, let's see, from age of 19 to the age of 20.
And it wasn't Kirby, right? It
was called a TriStar, yeah. It was called a TriStar. Same concept, same idea.
You did that 4 years?
Yes. So it was basically 2 years full time, and then another 18 to 24 months part time. Working at a bank during the day, selling vacuums at night to pay off all of my bad debt from my 2 years of selling vacuums full time. I tried to open my own store, had terrible mentors, made really bad decisions, accumulated a bunch of debt.
How much debt was it?
So that was the thing. It was $60,000. But at that time, when you have no money, it felt like it could have been $6 million. It would have felt like the same thing to me, like dumb stuff like utility providers calling me, had like this credit card company calling me. That was kind of what my life was looking like when I actually started at Vivint back in 2006 was when I onboarded here. So really from the years of 2002 to 2006, it was kind of the vacuum thing, trying to figure that out, and then 2006.
So you realized after the first 24 months, this is no bueno.
Doing the vacuum thing.
Yeah.
So the first probably 18 months, I was just a sales rep, and I was making the best money I'd ever made.
Really?
Ever. Yeah. When things turned.
If you don't mind, can you tell us more or less what those earnings were?
Well, so I don't know that I could remember. I just remember every single time I sold one, every time I sold an account, or every time I sold a vacuum, I was making about $800.
Okay.
And a good week for me would be, 5 to 7 of them.
Awesome.
And so,
Is this all in Utah?
yeah, all in Utah. I'd go up to like Price, Utah, like small towns, and absolutely, Rick. I remember leaving, having my car full of like the boxes were not small, they were big. And I'd leave with the car full of boxes, and I'd come home and they're all empty. I'd literally go up for a day or two and sell all of them and come home.
And then who got you into this?
I answered an ad in the paper. Yeah, it said, the ad was so crappy. The ad said, sports-minded people wanted. That was the ad. And I was like, oh, I'm sports-minded. I played sports in high school and, called in and answered and went in, and I'll never forget, they go in and it's like, oh, we're looking for drivers and we're looking for people to present a product and customer service agents, I think they called it. I'm like, oh, I'm a customer service agent. And then I go back in for a second interview and they break this thing out of the box. They're like sucking up sand and floating light bulbs and doing all this crazy stuff with it. And then they showed the pay scale. And they were like, this is what you can make if you can sell one of these things. And it was the first time I had ever seen a commission sales structure. Because growing up, very blue collar, my dad owned a road construction business. To me, $20 an hour, $25 an hour, that was a lot of money. And so someone saying, hey, these presentations take 2 hours and you could make $600. I'm like doing the math in my head going, this is way more than $25 an hour. And, but Bodie Gardner and I talk about this all the time, but we had made a commitment to each other. We were going to make $1 million by the age of 25. And
how far away did Bo live from you growing
up? So he was in eastern Utah, and we did not know each other until our missions. We'd seen each other at basketball camps before. Okay. And so we were acquainted, but then when we showed up like at the curb going into the MTC, we were acquainted. We'd known each other. We were like, hey, where are you going? New Zealand. Where are you going? New Zealand. And then boom, we ended up like rooming together. We weren't companions in the MTC, but on the way home from the mission was when we made that commitment, and that commitment lived rent free in my head every day. And so I was always looking for the vehicle of how am I going to make $1 million by the age of 25. And when I saw the commission's pay structure that this vacuum opportunity offered, that was what made me decide to take it. Just because it was the only wall that I had a ladder to put it on. Like I hadn't seen a commission sales structure anywhere else. Had I known about what you guys were doing in Dish or what Bodie was going to do a year later in Alarms, it would have been that.
Yeah, but it prepared you for the opportunity that you're in now.
100%.
That's awesome. So you did that for 4 years.
Yeah.
What's crazy is you were doing it full time, then you turned it into part time, and then you were leveraging. Were you hourly at the bank or salary?
Salary. $42,000.
42. That's pretty good.
Was it?
Dude, I was making like running a freaking Walmart store, making like $35,000 a year, running a big box. Like it was.
Dude, you were good at it too.
Oh my goodness.
You have your
gracious.
stories about polishing the floors in like the storage area in the back, like running a facility like that. That stuff has inspired me over the years.
Dude, I think my math is like I was maybe making $8 an hour by the time you calculate how many hours I was in those stores. I named my company Studio 168. I was working 168 hours a week at Walmart. Okay, so that's wild that you got a part-time job at a bank. Mm-hmm. You sold vacuums.
Full-time job at the bank.
Full-time job, part-time selling vacuums.
Yeah.
To pay off $60,000.
Yeah.
In debt because you were a business owner.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. New baby at home. So yeah, it was when I came to
How long did it
Vivint,
take you to pay off that debt?
My first summer. Oh. So I went out for 1 year with Vivint.
So you paid it off via the Apex / Vivint
Yeah,
vehicle.
so every time I'd sell a vacuum when I was doing it part-time, I would order a new machine and I would take 100% of it was like $1,000, and I would pay down one of the debts that I owed. But yeah, after my first year with Apex, I paid off all my bad debt.
Did it scar you to a point where you said, I don't want to be a business owner anymore?
So yes, and that was why I went to the bank. So came home, moved to Texas with my wife doing the vacuum thing, came home but with my tail between my legs, and called my buddy that worked at a bank. It was U.S. Bank, actually, is where I worked. And he got me a job as a mortgage loan officer with the bank.
Commission-based or just salary?
It was salary, and the commission, may as well have not even been there. It was pathetic.
Got it.
But that was what I thought. I felt like that was my exit from the world of entrepreneurship. So I'd taken this exit. I was going to just climb the corporate ladder, be this bank guy, and I hated it. I hated it way worse than I hated being broke selling vacuum cleaners. Just regulations and people looking over your shoulder, and just a kind of a snooty, crappy work environment. Everybody there's getting paid hourly. Nobody's inspired. I hated that. And doing the vacuum thing at night to just kind of keep it sharp. So my little brother went out, and he had a good experience. His first year, he made $64,000.
He went with Bodie.
They did, to Chicago, and he had a really good first summer. And I think that enough of the pain had gone away, and I'd realized that this corporate world was not for me. That I was at that point, I was like, okay, he had this amount of success. Big brother syndrome is I will curb smash this kid. I will crush whatever his numbers were. And so it was really scary because if it didn't work, it was some scary results.
If you don't mind sharing, how much did you make your first year?
100 and I think my 1099 showed $137,000.
Was that more than what you made your best year at vacuums?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Vacuums were really I'd have a really big week, and then I think for me, I was still finding my footing as maybe an entrepreneur or as a sales guy. I'd make a whole bunch of money in a week, and then I'd take my foot off the gas for a week or two. And it wasn't until I found this where it was a 4-month sprint. You go and you make all of your money in the 4 months, and you don't watch the clock. You're working a number of hours. You don't care what the scoreboard says. That was when I really figured out how to get out of my own way and not take my foot off the gas pedal when I had a certain level of success. But yeah, I'll bet my best year selling vacs was probably $80,000.
Got it.
And that was my first year, and then it was all downhill from there.
Cool story, man. This is awesome. How long did it take you before you started running your own team?
So the first year that I worked, it was just me and my little brother, and had this idea in my head that I needed to go and rip a big paycheck. I need to go have a big year first and then recruit people. And I counsel people against that all the time. People care about what's going to be in it for them. They don't really care so much about what is in it for you. They want to know how's it good for them. So I would have done that a little bit different. But my first year, I was really just a sales guy. I had one recruit with my little brother in his office. And then year 2, I recruited half the team. And then year 3, I managed my own squad completely.
And Kevin ran his own squad.
Right, correct. That was an interesting year because that was the year that you went to Florida. He went to Corpus. Mm-hmm. Was it Corpus?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I went to Orlando. And
yeah.
when we switched, we were getting our butts handed to us in Orlando.
Yeah.
It was during the housing crisis.
That was crazy. Whole brand new neighborhoods, nobody passing credit, right?
It was nuts. We'd roll up to the hood and be like, wow, we're going to crush this neighborhood. This is perfect. And you start knocking doors, vacant, vacant. I'd love to get an alarm because this neighborhood is getting crazy because there's so many vacancies. People are breaking in to the homes that are vacant, and then they don't know if I'm here or not here. They're breaking in, and they find out I'm here, and I pull out my gun, and it gets confrontational and all this stuff. But then they turn around and say, but I haven't been keeping up on my payments, so I'm not going to pass credit. Mm-hmm. I mean, HOAs were bankrupted. So I remember customers telling me, Jeff, I would love to get Vivint, Apex back then, but my HOA has me pay for this alarm service that I'm paying for, that I'm not getting the service because it's bankrupt. But if I don't pay, it affects my credit score. I don't want my credit score affected. So I'm paying a service that I'm not getting. I can't afford to pay
for 2 of them
for another service. I'm like, this is wild. So I literally had Bo come out. I had Casey come out. I can't remember if I had Brenchley come out, but I was like, guys, you need to
You see it.
You need to see this. Like, I felt like I had built a beautiful team. We were ready to go rock it. Like, we had big goals. And those guys that I mentioned got their butts handed to them when they're on the doors. Because I'm like, maybe it's me, maybe it's my team. I don't think it is, but let's test it. Butts handed to them. Brenchley did come out, actually. And I put him in various different neighborhoods, like no results.
You got Brenchley on the doors?
Yep.
Wow.
And long story short, Bo made the move and said, hey, I think we can move Kevin out of Corpus. You guys take it over and we'll see. And we just ripped.
You just smashed.
Like,
and that was your introduction to Texas.
That was my intro to Texas. I mean, we just smashed.
Yeah.
I think our first day we did like 25. My best day in Orlando was maybe 6. And again, granted, everybody wanted it in Orlando. Like, sales was not a problem. It was just getting qualified customers that we could actually onboard.
Yeah.
So if you watch that movie, The Big Short, I mean, when they go test the mortgage crisis,
they go knock doors.
They go knock doors where?
Yeah, in Florida.
In Orlando, to be specific.
Wow.
Where you see all those for sale signs. That's how it was. Like, you would see, these nice, pristine fountains with algae and gators in them because they weren't being maintained. It was gnarly. But yeah, that was the beginning of something great there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now another thing I remember, a combo with you, is when we first met in the Vivint halls. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I mentioned the term preseason. Do you remember this? Or do you not remember this?
I don't remember this.
Yeah, so I'm chatting with you, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go to Arizona to do some more preseason. And your response was like, what is preseason? What are you talking about? Do you not recall this?
I don't.
Yeah, I actually tell the story quite a bit. I'm surprised it hasn't got back to you. But I'm like, Kenny Cox, like, he didn't even know what preseason was. But, at Atlas, we had to do preseason so we could fund the business. Because if you wait till summer and all you're doing is getting a bounty from the Topco, Dish Network in this case, you don't have enough cash to really build a business, do your recruiting, have cash on the balance sheet to do your marketing, so forth and so on. So one day we're all meeting as a C-suite and we're like, well, why don't we go knock some doors in St. George? It's warm. It's February. It's cold here, warm there. Let's go bang some doors, all of us, and we can load up tons of cash and we can operate the business. We did it, worked out really well. And we're like, we should probably do this more often for 2 reasons. So we can capitalize the business, and so that we can train our people on how to do the job before summer hits. So we became enamored with that strategy. And I'm pivoting from selling satellite to alarms, and I'm like, there's no way I can wait till April to learn how to sell these things and recruit all these people, and then they're relying on me to figure it out, part of them. Yeah. I got to become the expert. And it probably goes back to your sentiment as to why you wanted to go have a banger year before you recruited your people. But I knew that if I didn't figure out how to sell these things, I was going to have massive fallout from my recruiting base. So long story short, I sign on board, and every single month I'm doing preseason. And my goal was to hit 50 accounts before the summer hit, so I could have cash in my account, and also so that I could have the law of E.F. Hutton, where the true leader speaks, people listen. Yeah. And so that I could help people with training, so forth and so on. But that was literally the birth of preseason. Yeah. And Kevin Swiss came with us, and we had already started to do preseason tournaments at Atlas. So that was kind of the whole birth of the competition platform, the preseason platform, all that good stuff. But it was born out of necessity, more than just, it's a good idea. It was like live or die. Yeah. So and we probably didn't call it preseason, but and you probably know this, my story was really similar. Like, back then I couldn't actually onboard until January 1st, because if I sold anything in December, it wouldn't count toward the new sales year. And so I waited. January 1st, I onboarded, and I walked out my front door and started knocking on my neighbors' doors, and I sold 10 my first 3 days. That's amazing. And it was at a time where we didn't even call it, like you're saying, we didn't even call it anything. Like, I sold because I had to, because I had bills at home, and I had quit my job before the holidays at the bank, knowing I was going to start selling full time in January. And if I didn't, it was game over. It was game over. Yeah, back totally against the wall, and it was a real defining moment
in my life. And I'm actually eternally grateful for that. There's no handouts. I've never gotten $1 I didn't earn on a pay scale. And I'm really grateful for that because it did. I had to go make it rain out of necessity.
How many reps do you sign nowadays that knock their own neighborhood and bust out 10?
0.
Yeah.
None. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we can do the whole Uncle Rico thing, saying back in the day we used to do this and that and the other, but it's kind of wild.
Yeah,
how things have changed.
For sure. Well, and I even used to do this thing. We'd call them Super Saturdays. We'd meet in the morning. Mm-hmm. We'd do a sales training, and then we'd go blitz for 4 or 5 hours, just right around here. Yeah. And we would sell lights out.
It feels like nowadays guys can't sell unless they catch a flight somewhere super far away.
I have somebody in my org that he has an apartment in another state and leaves his car there, and that's where he has to go and sell. And he goes down there for the preseason, sells all of his accounts, goes down there for the summer, sells all of his accounts.
Yeah.
Can't do it in his backyard. Just can't for whatever reason. Yeah. But yeah, I had 52 preseason accounts my first year, and
without calling it preseason.
Yeah, without calling it preseason. Nobody else was doing any of it, and I sold them all right here in Utah. All of them.
All of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember selling a ton here I sold in St. George quite a bit, and then just around, Salt Lake County, Utah County, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then we'd go to Arizona just so we could take the masses there, not have the excuse of the weather being an interference.
Right.
And that strategy worked really well there as well.
Oh, for sure.
And now if teams aren't doing preseason, what's the feeling?
Oh, they're not working. Yeah. They're not. They're not going to make it. They're out of business.
Yeah, you're out of business. So get your preseason done. Embrace those tournaments and everything else.
100%.
Okay, now let's pivot a little bit back to some more just high-level stuff. So I like asking this question. It's kind of a deep question, but, it doesn't have to be you and me, but, something that we're doing together. But let's pretend it's a year from now. Mm-hmm. What are we celebrating in the life of Kenny Cox?
Mm. If my 18-year-old could have his way, it would be that he's married. I don't know if we're going to have that one. It's crazy that we're even... Have you got any of your kids married yet?
No, not yet. I think my kids are going to be late bloomers with the marriage thing.
Do you? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Wants to be
my
married.
Oldest has had a girlfriend for about a year now. My daughter had a boyfriend for 2 years, but now she's split. But
wow.
I think your kids are going to probably get married before my kids.
He's like his dad. I was just always jonesing to get married. It was just something I always wanted to do. No, I think that would be that we've had another baller year in business. I told you before we came in here, my group's up almost 100% year over year. And so it's amazing.
And you eliminated one of your products. You eliminated solar. So this is strictly smart home.
Well, and our group was the heaviest in solar. We accounted for over 50% of the company's installs in solar. So I'm so proud of our guys. Salespeople are the most resilient creatures that exist on the planet Earth. We really are chameleons. We can do Navy SEALs, all of those labels, you can put them on it. But yeah, our guys are literally pivoting from selling a solar product to selling a smart home product and doing it at a really, really, really high level. And so I think if a year from now we can say that, hey, we transitioned from that beautifully and we took a lot of notes on how it went, because it's not the last time that it'll happen. Everything in business seems to always come full circle, and you have to recognize when it does and the emotions and how to navigate all that stuff. So I'm sure we'll go through this again. So I think if we can navigate that successfully, if we can come through it on the other side, having a major growth year, and we can be, the 1% better per day thing, throughout this coming year, and not only learning at work, but learning at home, keeping our family together, coming through it being healthier and more motivated, and gearing up for a really big 2026. Mm-hmm. But from a professional standpoint, that's what I would like. But also checking the boxes from having some amazing experiences, maybe seeing some beautiful places with my family.
What's on your bucket list? What places do you want to go to? So I'm taking my wife to Scotland. Oh, nice.
Actually,
first time?
Yeah, for our 23rd anniversary.
Congrats.
It's been one of those where she has wanted to go forever. And I don't even remember when she started talking about it. It's just been this thing in her mind forever. And I just got thinking about it, and I'm like, we're having some really good years right now. I mean, as you know, Vivint is part of a $20 billion company, and we have stock vesting, and I just have these resources coming into my life that we've really worked an entire career for. It's you know what? I don't know of a better investment for me to make than to take my wife on one of her bucket list adventures. So we're going to do that. We're going to go spend 2 weeks in Scotland. And while we're there, we're going to go see Ireland. And that's like the big one for us right now.
Too, while you're at it, or no?
What's that?
Are you going to England as well?
We've been to England.
I've been to London.
Yeah. So it'll just be 2 weeks, just Scotland and Ireland.
That's cool.
That's the big one for now. And then we love like Hawaii as a family. Kauai's like
Kauai mainly.
Kauai mainly, yeah. Love that island.
I think so. My wife, let's see, I've been to Hawaii 2 or 3 times. Shamil has never been to Hawaii, and then Joaquin's been to Hawaii with me for a soccer tournament. That's the reason we went for the first time to Hawaii. Yeah, and actually, I went to Hawaii a few times with Vivint for recruiting.
Yeah, we were on Oahu. Yeah.
But have you been to Maui?
Yeah, I went to Maui once. Brody Fawcett lives there. Yep. He's a business partner.
So should I go to? So I want to take my family to Hawaii on spring break.
Yes.
Kauai.
Maui.
Kauai? Really?
Kauai.
I've been to Kauai.
Maui.
Really?
If I were going to live there, I'd probably live in
so you would go to Kauai
Oahu
or
Maui
for spring break.
Yeah, but if I'm going for spring break, it's Kauai.
Wow.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think this will be my 4th trip there.
Wow.
It is such a beautiful place to be. We're going to stay in Hanalei. So Hanalei's, I think it's like one of the top 5 beaches in the world.
But what hotel do you stay at?
An Airbnb. I'm taking both my moms, my mother-in-law and my wife.
Yep.
Taking my son's girlfriend and all 5 of my kids.
Oh, you're going to celebrate that one, brother. That's coming.
Dude, it's like she's kind of become part of our family, and we love her. She's great. But yeah, so there's going to be 7, 8, 9 of us.
Wow.
So yeah, we rented a house that's a stone's throw from the beach, and we're going to go and do that.
Awesome.
And
do you do those famous hot dogs there at that hot dog stand? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Yeah, you need to go try this.
So
I went out there with
in Hawaii.
Bridger Pennington. Yeah, in Hawaii, in Kauai.
In Kauai.
Right in front of that beach where all the turtles are.
Okay. Yeah.
So they serve these.
Poipu Beach. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they serve these. It's like the hot dog is like embedded in the bun.
Oh.
And then there's like, maybe it's hyperbole, like 100 sauces that you can throw on this embedded corn dog hot dog concoction. Dude, that's like lights out.
I'm gonna do it for sure,
dude. We're at a conference there. I was at a conference after I was with that initial group that introduced me to it, and those conference goers would go every single day.
Wow.
It was that much of a hit.
I loved it that much.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm going to do that. But I think, and this was something that you helped me a lot with when my family life hit another gear and on another level was when I started becoming really religious about my calendar.
Yeah.
And I make my wife, I wouldn't say I make her crazy, but I am always looking 30, 60, 90 days out, maybe even 110.
That's me.
Yeah, and you've been such a good example for me with this. Where Rachel and I did this planning retreat. We try once a quarter as a couple to just the 2 of us just go away from the kids, fall back in love with each other, get out the calendars. And we did one where we were looking 10 years out.
Wow.
And if you want to and I'm sure you've done this, but for your listeners, go look at a calendar. You can do it in your phone. Like you go onto iCalendar in your smartphone, you can go 10 years out and see what day your anniversaries fall on, what day birthdays fall on. But my point is, looking 30, 60, 90, 180 days out, what it's allowed me to do is just be so much better. And I'm missing the word right now, but deliberate is probably the word with my family and the experiences that we have, and just planning. And you know this, but there's as much excitement in the anticipation of the event as there is, and often it's even more fun than the event itself.
Sure.
And so I've gotten really good at planning these vacations and planning these trips, and then every single night at family dinner, or every single time we do family night, we're letting the kids plan a day. Hey, what does the perfect day on the island of Kauai during spring break look like for you, Eliza? And then she'll tell us, and then Connor will tell us. And so they all get to plan a day, but us talking about it and planning for it. So, if I have to budget for something, I've just learned, I just put it on the calendar, and then we're just going to work towards it. And there's not been a single time where we've had to cancel any of it. But in doing that, we're creating this amazing experiences, because as we keep talking about this time with our families at these young ages where they want to be around us, or maybe they have to be around us because they live in our house, they're so fleeting.
Yeah.
and I'm going to lose those here pretty fast. And so I feel super fortunate, but I've been able to put together these amazing experiences, and then capturing it with like pictures. But my kids will just always remember this stuff that we're doing, and it's like mission critical to me that we plan it for spring break, the family vacation, then try and get my wife away once a quarter.
Love it. Yeah, you think about it. We have like 18 summers with our kids.
Yeah,
maybe 19.
It's wild.
I mean, we gotta cherish them.
That graph, I think I've seen you post it online before, where it's like it shows time spent with family.
Oh yeah.
And then like time spent alone, and it's like trending. It's up and to the right, and then as you get older, it just starts to drop where you spend more and more time alone.
Yeah.
That stuff scares me. I'm like, and I know this is not the responsible thing, but I buy real estate every single year in Heber, and a big motivator for me is I want a spot for my kids to live.
Yeah.
Like I want my kids and my grandkids to grow up around me. Where I grew up in Manti, all my aunts and uncles were within 7 miles of us. My cousins were my best friends. And I've raised my kids where they've been around some of their family members, but not like that. As a grandfather, like that line coming down, like spending time alone, I don't want that.
No, I think the way you grew up is the way my dad grew up. And then my generation, with my parents leaving the nest, it's more like go on your own. As soon as you're 18, you're supposed to do your own thing, go to college. I think this is the way I view the world. I think times are coming back to where we were. Because, I mean, there's a lot of craziness happening. Mm-hmm. There's always been craziness, but I think things are maybe a little bit crazier now, and things are just so costly that this premise of our kids being able to buy their homes and live independently it's becoming few and far between. Mm-hmm. The kids that can actually do that. So I think the entire homestead thing is pivoting back. Like, I read that, because I've always been of the notion, how I was brought up. Hey, Julian, hey, Magali, you're 18, 19, go build it. Mm-hmm. And you got to make your car payments, all this stuff, which we've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
But with the way things are going, it's getting more and more difficult. So part of me is like, I have the resources, I have the opportunity. I don't want to coddle my kids, but if I can help them catapult and I can build a bridge instead of making their life like really that much more difficult just because, I don't know if that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm on the same thought pattern as you. I want to acquire real estate, and we're working on it so that my kids can have a safe haven, hell or high water,
Yeah. And you keep your grandbabies close, and you can go make these experiences with your kids. And, because when my father died, my mom actually moved 2 hours closer to us here in Vineyard. But what she left behind was her community.
Yeah.
All these people. I mean, she'd been there for 55 years.
Yeah, tough.
And and none of us realized that, hey, yeah, now you're closer to us, and we see you once or twice a week, maybe. But this community where you can go to the grocery store and everybody knows your name,
so important.
She left that behind. And so, getting her back in Manti has been, just a breath of fresh air for her, because she's back amongst her people. But yeah, and we're going to have to trade notes as we figure this out, because same thing. Like, I want my kids to go stand on their own 2 feet, but I also want what we're talking about here, which is a spot for my kids to land where I can keep my tribe close together, because my siblings, we're all over the place, and we love each other, but we only see each other a couple times a year.
Yeah, and I think life is supposed to be that way. Like, if you look at, my Latin American background in Puerto Rico, you're multi-generational sometimes in one house.
Yeah.
And you're for sure multi-generational in like one close proximity neighborhood. So one of my best friends from Puerto Rico, he grew up in a home right across the street from me, and he bought the house next door. So he lives here, and now his mom lives right next door. And he's been there. He's 49 years old now. He's been there all 49 years. Like, for me, that's beautiful. Yeah. And, they had a fence between the two houses. That fence is gone. So now there's a yard that connects these two homes.
Exactly.
And I mean, I go back to my neighborhood, and tons of my friends that I grew up with are still there. And there's something beautiful about that sense of community. Yeah. Now, with all that being said, I think that it's good to go explore the world and go grow. I'm super grateful for my opportunity to come to the States and, meet new networks and grow as a human. But there's also this beautiful element of building that community. If you study the centurions, meaning people that live to be 100 years plus, a big indicator of why they get to that age is community.
100%, yeah.
It's, I play chess with my friends. I walk with my friends. I have tea with my friends. I play racket sports with my friends. We go on walks together. We have these beautiful conversations. We cook together, eat together.
Yeah.
Like, I want that.
Yeah.
Like, I really want that. And my wife and I, we talk about this all the time. So, yeah, we'll trade notes for sure.
Awesome.
Okay, so now let's pivot into this. Another question I love asking, and I want you to think through this one pretty intently, pretty deeply. Don't include people. So make it more of a material thing for this exercise. But I give you a box. So Kenny Cox has this box. And in this box is everything that you've ever lost over your entire life. And again, you're 44 now.
Yeah.
So in 44 years, you've lost stuff. I give you this box of everything that you've ever lost. Let's make it material here. What do you look for first?
Man. What do I look for first? I've lost some amazing pairs of sunglasses. That's like my signature move. You give me a nice pair of sunglasses, those suckers are getting lost.
Even the nice ones. So
Even the nice
I would
ones.
lose the cheap ones.
Really?
I don't lose the nice ones.
Oh, I don't even know how many pairs of Oakleys. I've got a bunch of Maui Jims that are in there. I'm not spending like big dollars on sunglasses, but that's why I freaking lose them. And my signature move is setting it down in a restaurant on a table and leaving without it. That's my signature move. Gosh, I don't.
It could be a G.I. Joe. It could be a jacket. It could be cash. It could be gold.
So here's one.
It could be a document.
So
it could be a book.
I'm pretty good with documents. I actually am pretty and surprisingly organized for a hick like farm kid from Manti. They used to make. It's actually funny that you. I'm glad you brought that up. I grew up and there was this toy called an army ant. And you go on eBay, you can still find them.
Army ant?
Army ant. The army ants, yep. And I'll never forget, and I knew where it was for a long, long time. Well, while I was on my mission, my parents moved. They moved from one house to another. Well, my Ninja Turtles made it. I had all these action figures, this big case where you open it up, all these Ninja Turtles are in there. I had, it was a green fishing box, and it was packed full of army ants. And to this day, like once or twice a year, in my head, I'll be like, oh, I wonder where that ended up. No clue where it went. My mom doesn't misplace anything, and that thing's been gone. So no clue where those are.
Kevin has that somewhere.
He doesn't, dude. I would have known. I would have seen it by now. Because, I've always, they were my most favorite thing to play with growing up. Those are my Matchbox Hot Wheel cars. So, I would say I'm probably looking for my army ants, and I'm probably looking for I don't even know, 30 pairs of sunglasses that I've lost over the years.
Maybe try what I do. I mean, when I talk expensive, $300, $400, I guess.
Yeah.
But my sunglasses, I always know where they are.
Wow.
And I spend a little bit more by design, so I'm like, I'm not losing these things. But the cheap ones, I don't know. It works for me.
Well, that's my problem.
So
I'm $300 or $400, and I lose them.
maybe up to $1,000, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that is.
Okay, so your army ants. Obviously you're not asking me the question, but I'm going to answer because I just thought of it when you said that. But for me, I can't even remember. It was in the Dominican Republic because I lived there from age 5 to 10. And I was always really good at making sure I knew where all my toys were. I knew exactly what place in my closet they were, like everything. And there's one Star Wars figure, those little dudes that are about yay big. And maybe it was Boba Fett or one of those dudes. And I couldn't find him. And I was so bugged that I couldn't find him. And when you said you have these thoughts every once in a while, I wonder what that is. Bro, that happens to me all the time. This was in the 80s, and I'm wondering, where's my Star Wars dude? Where is it? Who took it? There's no. I looked under, everywhere, and I couldn't find the dude. Even when we moved, I kept looking, like when we were boxing everything up, couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's no way I lost this dude.
Oh, that's
it
funny.
haunts me still to this day.
Dude, there's one I've got lately. I bought this, and I'm not like a big jewelry guy. I actually want to get more into it. Like I want to buy, Robert Kiyosaki says, like he wears gold all the time. I know you do too. And it's the law. It's the law of attraction. Like I actually think that it's a very real thing. And I bought this silver chain. It's fake silver chain, but it was like $170. It's gone, dude. I can't find it, and I'm so bugged because I'm like, see, look at this. I shouldn't be buying expensive stuff because I'm just gonna lose it. But that's been a more recent loss. Yeah. I keep asking my wife. I'm asking my son. I'm like, hey, did you take my fake silver chain? He's like, no, I don't know where it is.
Yeah. No. So if I'm in a foreign country somewhere and I need to get buried, I'm ready. There's plenty of cash here to
you're
pay
good
for the burial.
Yeah,
so
I'm
going
to
to
take a page out of the book. I'm going to go buy me something.
Okay, another really introspective question. This one's probably going to be even deeper. So this one is actually people. It's human beings.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Before I go there, what is one thing, again, this is very personal, but hopefully you're fine sharing this, and you can share to the level in which you are comfortable. But what does Kenny Cox keep saying no to that you should not say no to?
Drugs. Just kidding. What do I keep saying no to that I shouldn't say no to? Lately, and you've probably noticed, I've kind of been spending some money for the first time on social media, right? With the goal in mind, and it really doesn't have, for me, the motivation wasn't at all like personal brand, but it's becoming partially that. It's really to recruit to my teams.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I've had a bunch of individuals hit me up saying, hey, I don't want to come and work for you, but I would love to just be in your network. And I say no to those.
Okay.
Or I ignore them or ghost them. Because I'm so busy with people that are working with me that are in my network, like people that you know how this works. Like in my profession, almost 100% of my time outside of my family is with people I work with.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to make room for anybody else. But I feel bad saying no to young kids.
Just for the viewers and listeners to understand what you go through, again, a lot of them are agnostic to this direct to home thing. Like, what's your availability look like to the people that are in your org? When can they ping you? When can they get a hold of you?
24/7.
Let's say it's 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah.
Is Kenny answering the phone?
It depends on who calls me. If it's one of my top end leaders, yes. If it's not, no.
It's 11 o'clock.
If it's 11 o'clock, I'm not answering the phone, but they're getting a text back saying, hey, I'm in bed, like text me. But I'm still available, like from that angle.
Will you show up to a recruiting meeting at 1 a.m. if it's necessary?
100%.
Yeah.
Without,
and that's what
question.
Viewers need to understand. It's intense. It's a knife fight.
Oh yeah. No, I'm probably not scheduling that, but if it's like break glass emergency, 100% it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the world of recruiting is like an absolute dogfight. And the person that is in front of the recruit last is generally the one that wins.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And you don't arrive here without being willing to do. I think you were recruited at like 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I was.
By Todd, and you know what I mean? That's just what it takes for top talent.
Yeah. So you need to start saying yes to these people reaching out to you? Is that what you're saying? But be careful what you're saying, because they might start reaching out even more.
I keep saying no, but what I probably need is maybe a different platform to help.
A system of sorts?
Yeah, a better system.
You know what you should do? Sorry for interrupting you, but why don't you create like a day at Vivint or wherever where it's like, hey, this is open house. This is open mic. I do these once a month or whatever, and everybody that wants to reach out to me and be a part of the network, you can Zoom in or you can be here in person. I'd love to connect.
That's brilliant. Yeah, or even just do like a call if I didn't want to do the in-person thing, even just do a call. But yeah, I've probably had, I don't know, a dozen of those where they're like, hey, I just want to have a conversation. Hey, I just want to pick your brain. Hey, I just want to, and I've done a couple of them, and they're an hour where I finished the hour, and it's been really enlightening for them, and some of it's enlightening for me. But I'm just like, dude, I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the bandwidth.
The other thing you do is where there is no margin, there is no mission. You just make sure that there's a bounty when you do these things where it's high enough where it's like, I don't really want to do it, but if it hits that threshold and surpasses it, sure, why not?
Then I'd spend the time.
Yeah.
Like
make it ridiculous.
You tried that for a time, didn't you?
I do it.
You still do that?
Oh yeah. I'll tell you the dollar amount later.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, maybe that's the better answer then. But I will tell you one thing that I make myself crazy on, and it's maybe not a say no thing. My cell phone is it's like an atomic weapon.
Yeah.
My wife and I have an incredible marriage. There is one thing that we argue about, and it is my cell phone.
Yeah.
And she's not out of line. She's 100% correct about it. But even if my cell phone is in the room, I feel like I'm Lord of the Rings, and it's like calling to me.
Yeah.
And if I don't have it in my pocket, I get like the ghost buzz going on in my pocket. And so it's this double-edged sword because it's what has made me excel at work, but it's what makes me a terrible father and husband at home.
Yeah.
When I'm great is when I go home, set my phone in my office, and it does not leave. If I could go back and do it over again because my kids are older now, I would have made it my personal mission for my kids to never see me on the cell phone. And that's really, really hard. But if I'm present, I'm an amazing father when my cell phone is not in the room with me. Yeah. As soon as it is, it becomes a distraction. And so I need to be better at saying no to my cell phone for sure.
Are you able to put it away on date nights?
Yes. Yeah. And I actually give it to my wife, or I leave it in the truck or her car, or I give it to her and she keeps it in her bag. And I've made it a point to do that. Or when we go on our quarterly getaways, I'll make sure I'm leaving my phone in places where it's not going to just be a distraction.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. My wife, I haven't done this, but my wife now, pretty big career. She's highly sought after. She just published her 30th book. Man, that is this week. Awesome. It got released a couple of days ago. But I
remember when she dropped her first.
It's crazy.
It's been like light speed.
Yeah, we actually went to a book signing last night in Salt Lake. It was super magical.
That's so awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, all to her.
I don't know. She's got a pretty good man at home.
She got a Gab phone for after hours.
Oh.
That way she can still stay connected with her agent, me, the kids, and I think there's one or two other people on there.
Huh.
So her other phone goes away.
Yeah.
So no emails, no nothing. She'll probably choose 6 p.m. or whatever. It depends on the day. It ebbs and flows. But then we know she'll text on the iPhone, hey, I'm moving to Gab. And the rest of the evening is all on Gab where there's no distractions, only quote unquote emergency phone calls.
Dude, that's
and it's just
brilliant.
changed everything for her.
I'll bet she's so much happier.
Yeah, so much happier. In fact, Nick Hansen, he got off social media. And the interview I did with him, it was all about, I've never been happier just being off of all of social media.
I've been thinking.
And here you and I are getting into it.
Yeah.
Because I had my Instagram private forever. Mm-hmm. And then I opened it up and then, it's gotten crazy.
Yeah.
And it's already happening to you. It's going to get even crazier the more you leave that thing open and the more you, but again, there's not one answer. It's not one unilateral thing. Like some people can do really well with the tool and some people it can destroy us.
Yeah.
You just have to be very intelligent on how you do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
100%. And I think too, for kids, there's a book. I think it's for every parent out there. It's called The Anxious Generation.
Oh yeah, I've read it.
Yeah.
I've recommended that book to so many people.
Yeah, such a great book. But yeah, the very specific, like with kids, how do we not allow this thing to ruin our kids? I'm not saying it's foolproof. He's going to give you, now that it's been around long enough, these devices have been around long enough, they've been able to conduct the studies, as you know in the book, with like real outcomes, showing you real life examples of what's happened to people when they gave social media to their kids at 12 years old versus 16 or 17.
So listen, my youngest is 12.
Yeah.
Do you think he has an iPhone right now?
Zero chance he has
no
an
iPhone right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to delay it as much as we can. And every once in a while he'll hit us up, hey, I'm the only one in my class without the iPhone. I'm like, congrats.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. He's got the Gab phone. Mm-hmm. If you guys are curious of what I keep referring to, look it up, gab.com.
Yep.
It's essentially a lockdown smartphone. It's on the Samsung It's a Samsung product.
It's a Samsung device. Yeah, it's a smartphone.
Yeah, and they have watches for, kids, and it just helps kids graduate into smartphones, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Shamil and I want to delay giving Valentino a smartphone for as long as we can.
Yeah, I think you're
if
super
it were up to
smart.
me, he'd be 22.
Yeah.
And what's crazy, Kenny, is my kids, my 18-year-old girl, my 22-year-old girl, they're all like, do not give them a smartphone. And they're on their freaking devices all the time. Like, they know. Yeah. But they're intelligent enough and cognizant enough to know that they wish that they wouldn't have had a phone at the age in which they got it. Yeah. My oldest, I can't even, maybe 11 when he got his smartphone. Because,
you didn't know?
I'll claim to be naive because we didn't know, and terrible mistake.
Yeah, Pandora's box. Yeah, there's a quote that says...
Sorry, a lot of people think it's the pornography thing. That's the least of my concerns. It's all the other stuff. Yeah. Because if they want to go, they're going to find that stuff. I just... The comparison, the FOMO, like all this stuff. Like back in the day, if you and I didn't get invited to a party, we wouldn't find out. But now it's like they want you to find out you didn't get invited. Yeah. They want you to know, hey, you're not part of the cool crowd. And it's hard for these kids. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, there's a quote that says, if you want your kids to no longer be kids, you give them a smartphone.
Absolutely.
And even my 12-year-old that has a Gab phone, like she had the watch, and then for her 12th birthday, we gave her the Gab phone. Yeah. It's like because it's a screen, she like can't get off it. So she's all day long texting her friends. Anytime I see her, she has this phone in her hand, and she has no access to social media. She has games and texting and music. Yep. And she still cannot put it down. And so delaying it for as long as you can. Yeah, I think educating yourself by reading books, because now there's studies that tell you what happens with kids that have social media, especially at an early age. But then, just know as soon as they have it, you're toast. Yeah. Like you've lost your little girl.
And I think a lot of it, us as adults and parents, it's us actually being authentic with the fact that it's like we're culpable too.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, oh, these kids. No, bro. It's like look at your screen time on Sundays when the report comes out, and tell me if you're happy with that report or not.
Yeah, so. It's embarrassing.
Okay, couple more questions. So now I'm going to go to that one again, the one I told you, hey, let me ask you this one, and then we'll go back. So here we are. You walk into a room, and in that room is everybody that's you've ever met in your 44 years of life. Either still with us here on this earth or gone to the other side. You enter this room, everybody's there, every single person that you've ever met. Who do you look for first in that room?
My dad, for sure.
And I figured that would be your answer.
Yeah, for 100%.
I remember calling you and crying on the phone. Yeah. When I was offering you my condolences.
Yeah, that was really, and you've been through the same thing now.
Oh yeah, so with my mom.
Yeah, it's so hard. But yeah, for sure it would be him. For sure it would be my father-in-law. We celebrated what would have been his 75th birthday on Sunday. Two incredible men. It's like, why are these people called home? I don't know. Apparently God needs really awesome soldiers, My grandfather, I'm named after him. My name's Kenneth Max. I would just love to pick his brain and hear more of his story. Like, I know a little bit about him, but I would just want to learn more. And then I think it'd be really cool to like great grandparents. And I think the older I get, the more interested I am in family history. I mentioned I'm 5th generation Sanpete County in Utah. Yep. Well, my 5 generations ago, Frederick Walter Cox, he was asked by Brigham Young to move down to Sanpete County and establish the city of Manti. Homeboy had 10 wives. Wow. Yeah, and back in those times, it wasn't like this sexual thing. It was, I'm sure there was plenty of that, but it was like a calling, right? It had to be issued to you, and it was because he was wildly industrious. He was really healthy and strong, and he could support them. So he had 10 wives that he supported, all of them, and it was like agriculture. In fact, he was killed in a logging accident, and that would be amazing.
How old was he when he got killed?
Young 60s, 62 or something. Yeah.
And then out with those 10 wives, how many kids?
Oh, shoot. Well, if you go to my
2,000.
hometown,
That's it.
There's got to be. Well, yeah. If you just the last name Cox, if you look up the last name Cox in the phone book, there are in small little old like Sanpete County, there's pages of Coxes.
Is the governor family?
Yeah, we're cousins somehow. 3 or 4 times removed, but he's from that same.
Okay.
That same line, yeah. So while I haven't met him, every time I go where my dad is buried in the cemetery, Frederick Walter with all of his wives is right there, like stone's throw from my dad's. I would love to meet those. So yeah, I've got, like the great men in my life would be awesome to go and see.
You know what? One thing I told Shami the other day, I said if more people did genealogy, there'd be less hate.
Yeah.
Like if we truly understand what our forefathers and, how do you say foremothers? I don't know.
Same thing. Forefathers, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe mothers are in there.
I think we would realize we're more the same than we are different.
Yeah.
And I think they would be ashamed of our discrimination, our prejudices, our, let's call it hate. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. We're all immigrants.
Like but we're all more like we want more of the same thing. We want peace, we want love, we want happiness. And it's just sad for me to see. And I know that the clickbait and the media, they want us at wit's end with each other so they can sell more ad space. And so the powers that be at the government, and this is a different podcast, but so they can advance their agendas, whatever. But if we could just really, truly understand who we are and what our ancestry is like and how we're all coming from pretty much the same place, love would dominate.
It'd bound.
Yeah, it'd be. So that, yeah, I'm with it on what you just said. I love, the older I get, the more intrigued I am with my family tree, and the more sentimental I get with all the things that they had to go through so that I can sit under the shade that I'm enjoying.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
The whole when I lived in New Zealand, they were really, really impressive people, and their culture is so strong. They call it whakapapa. It's your genealogy. They could actually track from their parents all the way back to Adam and Eve, and they could recite it verbally. So they'd go in these church houses, into these maraes, and they would recite from memory their genealogy all the way back to Adam and Eve.
That's beautiful. Could you imagine if all of us did that?
Well, and the sad thing is, there's only like one place in recorded history where somebody wrote it down, so that the culture was that you recite it verbally, but you don't write it down.
Yeah.
You just have to memorize it.
Well, yeah, like even in the U.S. culture, we don't have that same respect and adoration for our elders.
Yeah.
And I get it. There's a lot of elders that are crazy and that have caused a lot of harm. But for the most part, like if we could respect our elders more, I think we'd all be, in better shape. Yeah. In a better situation. You look at the Japanese culture. I mean, you look at a lot of the Asian countries' culture. It's a lot of respect for the elderly.
For the elders.
And when that respect is shown, that respect is also given. So I think it goes both ways, right? So if we show that respect and that honor, hopefully by design, they're going to show the honor back and not do dumb things that some of, these folks have done around some of our, vicinities.
Yes.
But anyway, there's so many different things we can talk about. Let's go ahead and start wrapping things up. Last question. I always like asking this question just to get different feedback, but obviously people tune in for the premise of the show, which is live life by design. 1 or 2 guiding principles on how Kenny Cox lives his life more by design than he does by default. Yeah. And then we'll end it there.
I appreciate it. I don't claim, and I won't take credit for any of these things. It's all stuff I've largely learned from people like you and just being encouraged to read good books, right? Sure. I think a lot of people are like looking for a savior to come and say, well, there is one I think that's coming, but he's not here yet. You need to be a consumer of really good content. I think number one is everybody needs to have a personal library. And I know you talk a ton about books. Like you just need to start there. Like find some really, really excellent books to go and read. Make sure, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, right? Like you got to be picking the weeds out all the time. Make sure you're always consuming good content, stuff that's going to make you a better person. So yeah, 12 months from now, if you and I sit back down, I would hope that I could tell you I'm a better person and this is how I've accomplished that. I mentioned calendaring. When I found kind of the big step up in success at work was when I learned to really get dialed in with my calendar. And it's how I've been a champion maybe at home as a husband and as a father, is just making sure that I'm really, really good at that. It's simply sitting down and looking 30, 60, 90, 180 days out, and then planning the whole week. Another trick that I've used on the weekly, and I've been doing it for years, and maybe you do the same thing too, is the who am I thing, the who am I principle. What are the roles that I feel as a human being, right? I'm a child of God. I'm a husband. I'm a father, right? I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a neighbor. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. I'm a boss at work. And then I write all of those roles down. There's about 10 of them that I write every single week. And underneath those, I write 2 goals, just 2 things that I want to accomplish that week to improve in all of those areas. And then after I look 30, 60, 90, and 180, I come back to my calendar. I pencil in all the big rocks, the stuff I have to do. And I actually have it, and you've made fun of me before for this. I have a desk calendar. I still have one. I can't get away from it. It's just a really effective tool. I order off Amazon. It's a big piece of paper, right? There's 12 of them in there. And I go through my list of who I am, and I find gaps in my calendar where there aren't big rocks, where I pencil those things in. And then I've just become religious to it.
You still carry that calendar around?
I don't carry it. It sits on my desk at home. Oh. But I like...
Because when I saw you, you were carrying it in your backpack.
Yeah, I had it in my backpack, yeah. I did that for a few years, but now I leave it at home. But as soon as I put it on my calendar, so I write it out, I come up with the ideas in my head, I put it on my calendar, and then I transfer it into my phone.
Brilliant.
It works for me. I think people just need to find out what works for them.
But listen to me. I think that's a massive point that we should make. Everybody wants that one strategy that's perfect. And all the time, I'm sure this happens to you all the time, Kenny, when you go to visit your offices, your teams, etc. How exactly do you do that? Just because it works for you, it doesn't mean that it works for them.
That's right.
So like I remember I watched, at Vivint, we did a mock correlation, and Alan Swick back in the day when he was running Miami, he was like the god of sales managers. So we did this conference where he ran the correlation meeting. And as he, comes into the room, he's dressed. Do you remember how he was dressed? With a referee shirt on. Do you remember this or not?
I'm going to remember parts of it.
So he's wearing this referee jersey, and he's got a whistle. And then, we're learning how Miami does their correlation meeting and how Swick does it. He does some sports trivia at the beginning for some cash, and other, prizes. And then they're doing the numbers board and everything, and then he sits down. And then if somebody talks out of line, he blew his whistle. Boop! Infraction, foul on James. 2 more and you're out of the meeting type of thing. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So guess what I do to the next correlation meeting? Mendez is wearing a friggin' referee jersey with a whistle. And I was trying to do what Alan Swick was doing, and guess how long that lasted?
Like one whistle blow.
One whistle blow. I'm like, this isn't me. This doesn't make any sense. My guys are not bought in. I can't do this thing.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I bring this up is the calendar thing works for Kenny. It doesn't mean everybody needs to go buy this calendar thing. Mm-hmm. But if it's working for him, why should he get rid of it?
Yeah.
Like it works beautifully for him. Mm-hmm. For Nick Hansen, it didn't work for him to be on social. For Kenny, it's working for him to be on social. For Shamida, the Gab phone works. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden now you're going to be this great mom and great author because you have a Gab phone. Mm-hmm. Like you just have to figure out where you are in life and implement a system that works for you. That's why it's so important. We talk about this all the time. It's first, what's your state? What story you're telling yourself? Mm-hmm. And then you implement the system. Yeah. State, story, system.
Yes.
And then you go from there. Okay. Any last words before we sign off? This has been absolutely phenomenal.
No. Look, I think this is one of those where I've appreciated being on here, because even just like saying some of these things out loud, talking about some of these strategies out loud, it makes me want to go and double down on these. And so I'm probably leaving here today with more than anybody else. And I like genuinely appreciate that. But I think maybe my tip for everybody that's maybe a listener, and because a lot of people, and I'm guilty of the same thing, of like, I'm listening to this while I'm driving, or I'm listening to this while I'm in the car. I think if we listen and we consume without taking action on any of it, that's the sin. And that's not the point of your program. The point of your program isn't to just create good content. It's to like give people actionable tools. And that's what you just did. You just barely did that. And so I think if you just take one thing that you learn from every single podcast and you work like you did immediately to implement it, and it may or may not work, but at least you're checking things off the list. So maybe that's my advice for your listeners. But I appreciate you having me on. This has been a blast.
Much love. Thanks for being on.
Appreciate you, brother.
Catch you on the next one.
Thank you.